Welcome to Pherotone Studios. I'm going to talk you through how to insulate a shed. It's currently 18 degrees in here and about 13 outside. Heating hasn't been on. The computer's been all night uploading a video to YouTube, and that's been enough to keep the room at this temperature all night, so it's really well insulated. And I'm going to go through this brilliant 3D model that I've built and how to insulate your shed and why you should insulate your shed in this way, because I've had many sheds, most of them recording studios, and I've got loads of friends who have recording studios in sheds for some reason, or log cabins, same thing, and I've learnt a lot, so enjoy. This is my 3D shed model. This brown board is your shed base, the floor, and these are your upright studs that the outside wall is attached to. This green board is going to represent the outside wall, so I'm going to put that there. Very clever. What I will say is, before you fit any insulation, if you haven't already got a breathable membrane, so like roofing felt or something equivalent, fitted to the outside of your studs before you fitted the boarding up the outside, you can always staple some to the inside. I know it's not ideal, but you can just wrap it round. All the stud work just helps control moisture going between the inside and outside. Firstly, get some insulation and put that between those studs. And I'm talking floor if possible, ceiling, walls, and that fiberglass. That insulation should ideally be fiberglass, so that fluffy stuff, and as much as possible. So if you've got 3-inch studs, whack 3 inches of fiberglass in there. If you've got 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, 6 inches, massive, but whack a load in there. You want that, insulated. Next up, you're going to insulate over the face of all the timber on the inside. The reason you're going to do that is because of something called cold air bridging, which means if you're inside a nice warm studio and it's nice and cold outside, nice and cold or just cold outside, warm air holds more moisture, so when that warm air gets cool, that moisture is released. That's condensation, you see it all over the place. You don't want that happening because it's going to start rotting things. So what you can do is get some, at a minimum, I'd go 2 inches of polystyrene. In the UK, Jablite, I go for Jab Floor because it breaks less. And you don't want loads of smashed bits of polystyrene everywhere, it's not nice. And you want to go over all the walls, the ceiling, the floor, the lot. Like you're packaging yourself up to be posted somewhere, mailed somewhere. You want it on everything. Just seal the lot. I mean, tape the joints if you want, or just seal them with silicone. Ideally, if you can, instead of polystyrene, I would go the PIR board. So a couple of brands of that in the UK are Celotex or Extra Therm. It's at least 2 inches thick, I'd go, and it's like yellow foamy board with a foil coating, so a big shiny silver coating. And you want to go on everything just to stop, cold air bridging, and you want to insulate the room properly. This is more important, I would say, than going between the joists. That is what's going to make the biggest difference. And you want it on your floor and then board over the floor. I've got a plywood floor. In fact, I've got insulation between the joists hung on sort of chicken wire, so metal mesh, and insulation sits in there, so fiberglass, 6 inches of it. And then I've got my plywood floor, and then I've got 2 inches of polystyrene, then I've got my 22mm moisture resistant chipboard. That's just my floor. Ceiling, in fact, I've got 2 roofs. I've got internal joists sit between the external ones, and the insulation goes sort of between them, and then I've boarded over it. Client's here to do some work. Finish this later. So you've got your fiberglass between the studs, you've got your PIR board or polystyrene on the face of everything, floor, ceiling, the lot. Then what I would recommend is a moisture barrier. It's just like a solid plastic sheet, but quite a heavy duty one. I think I used a damp course membrane in here just because it's what I could easily get hold of, because I did it during lockdown and it was a nightmare. Seal the room, and then that's when you board over. I personally go with OSB, which is like chunky chipboard, and then I plasterboard it. The reason for that is, it's a studio, so it needs more soundproofing, but it means you can get a fixing on the walls anywhere, which is quite handy for just putting hooks up, or, you've got guitars hanging on the wall in here, but if you want to put something on the wall, it makes your life a lot easier. If it's just plasterboard, it's not as ideal, I would say. And that is my minimum for insulating a shed. This room has gone one step further. There is an additional stud wall, so there's a little gap, 2-inch gap between this with the polystyrene on the front. I think it's PIR board on the first stud wall. Then I've got my internal stud wall, which has another load of fiberglass inside it, and then polystyrene on the inside. So I think I went PIR board on the first one and polystyrene on the internal one, and then I boarded it and did all the. That's where my moisture barrier is, I think. I can't remember, it's been a few months. But it makes a big difference. And this works the same for when it's boiling. I live in England, so you know it's about 40 degrees centigrade every day. But it can get up into the mid-30s in the summer. And keeping a home studio or office cool is also a problem, because you've got a computer on all day. A computer kicks out a surprising amount of heat, especially by the time you've got lights on and stuff like that. You kick out a lot of heat. That'll warm the room up on its own. So in the summer, this also works for keeping it cool. So I put a mobile aircon unit, I've got windows in here. I open one of the windows and the hose, instead of having the hose attached, I just have the vent, the hole where the hot air blows out. I have that right out the window, so there's less tube inside the room warming the room up. And it keeps it a lot cooler. I would say, if anything, it's harder to keep a room cool in the summer than it is to warm it up in the winter. If you insulate it properly, it's brilliant in here in the winter. I mean, I think it's still about 13, 14 degrees, and it's a sunny day today. I'm inside in a vest. It's probably just over 20 degrees now in here, and I'm comfortable. And then I'm in here from about, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning till 10 at night most days, to be honest. So it's definitely worthwhile doing it. No problems with damp, no problems with anything. Just make sure you run your power cable in before you seal everything, because it makes it easier. Then you can sort of fit everything around it. And also, I'd recommend a proper wired Ethernet cable. Run that in, because wireless is great, but when it goes down or there's a problem with it, you don't want that during your Zoom calls. So just make sure you're set, plug it all in properly, and do the job properly once, and you won't look back. Just don't do it wrong. I used to be a carpenter, so I know how to build things. Do it. Hopefully that's helpful. Please check out my other videos. I'm doing a few on a home office. So there's one on how I heat the room. I've kind of told you about that anyway, but it's simple as a wall-mounted thermometer thing that plugs into the mains. Then I plug in a ceramic heater, and if it drops below 16 degrees or whatever it's set to, heating comes on. But it never drops that low. It's so well insulated, but it's only October now, so the heating will start coming on soon. Yeah, hopefully that will help. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.